Hi, and welcome to the second week of 30 Minutes of Growth with Abisola Olabisi. How are you all doing, and how have you been? And what is that one growth mindset myth that you never thought exists or existed until you watched my last video? And if you haven't, head over to YouTube to find the live broadcast that we had now recorded on YouTube for you to have a recap on what we've been learning so far. Welcome again. It's the Launch and Learn 30 minutes of your time learning and growing. And if you're wondering why are we talking about the myths about growth and the growth mindset, is because you simply cannot afford to live 2026 the way you did in 2025. And one of the bedrocks of the many things you're going to accomplish, especially being the best version of yourself, is learning what growth means and how to grow as a bedrock for the many things that you're going to do in 2026. So today I'm going to go through the next two myths about growth. And if you watched last week's video, we talked about how the fact that you're 365 years old does not mean that you have a growth mindset that is matching up to your age. Today, we're going to explore myth number 3 and myth number 4 and how to debunk those myths together. So the first myth says that having a growth mindset means that you can do everything. I laugh at this one because I've been a victim of this mindset. Means that I can do all things. Oh, yes. And that's not true. It's just partially true. So let's explore what this myth really means and the truth about growth. Right. So it sounds empowering to hear that you can do everything, but it's not realistic. All right. Growth mindset doesn't erase the personality difference, it does not erase your natural strength, and it doesn't erase your God given limitations. One of the ways that I got to know that every one of us, if you're a Christian, if you're religious, we've misquoted Philippians 4:13 a lot. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Is that I learned that the hard way when I was in the university and was about to turn in my thesis, and I ran into the Philippians 4:13 issue. I couldn't pick one topic in all the ones, all the courses, all the programs that I've learned because I was really great at everything. But I could not find a topic, not because I couldn't write everything, but because I could absolutely, it's not realistic for me to write everything. So I had to find one thing that I could do and play to my strength. So that's one thing that you must learn about growth. You have to learn that a growth mindset plays towards their strength. We tell ourselves that it's okay for you to want to, you know, work on your weaknesses, but time's running out. You don't have a century, a decade, all the time in the world to work on your weaknesses. So you need to know that with a growth mindset, you amplify your strength while you are still building capacity for your weaknesses. So a growth mindset means that you know your limitations and you set realistic boundaries for the things that you can accomplish per time and that you can accomplish at a time. I'll tell you another story. When I got one of these really amazing jobs that I did earlier in the years, like a couple of years ago, I really wanted to prove my worth, and I really wanted to prove that I deserved the seat at the table, as someone who's diligent, who's capable, and who can do amazing things. And yes, those things are actually true, but how I went about it was not correct. Everyone booked time off, everyone booked vacation, summer vacation, and I refused to. book a time off just because, I wanted to show that I could do so much. And so there needed to be some, some items, some projects that needed to be delivered, within that time frame. And, there were multiple options of how we could bring external team members to help accomplish those projects. And here I was still learning, understanding how far to go with my work and all that. So I said, you know what, I can do it on my own. They asked, are you sure that you can handle this on your own? I said, absolutely, leave it to me. I can handle this. Sure, sure. Those people that, have difficulty saying no just because they wanted to impress, their bosses and things like that. So I ran into this quagmire. I couldn't finish the project. I realized that the answers that I was trying to provide for the, the documents needed an external technical perspective that I wasn't equipped to do. And we were running towards the deadline. Well, maybe you're at the edge of your seat now thinking maybe the expected end had come. Maybe I was going to be, let go and laid off. No, rather the team came together and worked with me to finish that project. But I learned the hard lesson. And that's where I got my statement and mantra from. We never say no to help. All right. I knew that I didn't even realize that I needed that extent of help, but I felt like I could handle it. I could chest it out. So now I have learned to actually ask for help when I'm offered or when I feel like I can do it and figure out how to come about finishing that task. I will raise an alarm before I even get to the point of needing the help and realizing, oh, false alarm, I could do it on my own. But learn this, being accountable, part of being accountable to your growth means learning to ask for help. All right. It's not weakness when you ask others to help you. And asking for help does not mean that you are lazy. It means that you have identified your areas of strength, and it means that you have grown enough to know when to ask others to chime in to help you. All right. Asking for help is not room, it's not excuse, it's not an excuse for laziness or to be lazy. Asking for help is growth in itself. So embrace your natural gifts, embrace your natural talents, and set healthy boundaries for yourself when you work. If you don't do that, you have a very huge capacity and tendency to experience burnout. One of the things that my journey in trying to prove a point did to me was that I learned quickly what my signals were for burnout. And there are many, it could be peculiar to one person, there's a uniqueness that comes around how people, know that they have gotten to the end of their, the stretch. And one of those ways is when there is a transferred aggression to the people around you. Maybe it's physical. Sometimes you feel a twitchy pain on around your shoulder and the nipples of your neck and everything else like that. That's how you know that you need to call out for help, or you need to get into a space of rest. But we're not talking about stress and burnout today, but we're talking about growth. So let's go ahead and look at the other myth about growth. Um, Growth is not about becoming someone else. Remember, we said growth means that you can't, growth does not mean that you can do everything. And it also means that you are content with your strength and you're not comparing yourself to others. All right. You are content with your skills, you're content with your current state while you are curious to explore what the next phase of growth looks like for you. In a previous video, I had said that you must adopt a lifelong learning mindset. Be a lifelong learner, learning from whoever, regardless of the age. You must be comfortable learning from people who are older than you, and you must be comfortable learning from people who are younger than you. That's what growth and a growth mindset looks like. Okay, let's look at the fourth myth about growth and the growth mindset. When we hear the narratives around growth and the growth mindset. People think that the growth mindset means failure is easy. It means that you have it easy when it comes to experiencing failure. Oh, because I have the growth mindset, I shouldn't react in a certain way when it comes to failing. I should not put out my emotions there. It doesn't show maturity. It doesn't show growth. Absolutely not. That is not true. And many times we often hear that failure is just a lesson. That's only a partial truth about failure. All right. The truth and the complete sentence and statement about failure is that failure is a lesson. Failure is an event, okay? And it can also be painful. And the growth mindset does not mean that failure won't hurt. The growth mindset does not mean that rejection won't sting. Absolutely. It's even a growth mindset that helps you to come to a realization that you should anticipate the risks that come with key decision making. When you go into a room, you are not going to shy out or shy away from the conversation. You come with a mindset prepared for any possible outcomes. It can either be a yes or a no. It can't be any less. So stay with me and type it in the chat. It can either be a yes or a no, and it can be anything less. It can either be a yes or no, and it can be anything less. So when you're approaching an authority, a system, you really believe that you should get something, you must anticipate in your mindset that it could either be a yes or a no, and you're not going to shy away from either. All right. That's what it means to have a growth mindset. Okay. Failure, and I mean, the growth mindset does not mean that loss won't affect you. Okay. It just means that, and failure will what's the word I'm looking for now? Failure will challenge your faith. Yes, it will. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Maybe this is something you're hearing for the first time, and I'm saying it again. It will challenge your faith. You prepped up, you woke up, you did all the right things, you read all the Bible verses, and something happened, along the way, and the expectation did not meet your current state. You got to know either way. And you're like, oh, but I did all the right things. Remember, I said that there are some things that we need to quit. One of those things is to quit following a pattern or template blindly and to come back to the drawing board to review what went wrong and what can I do better. That's what growth looks like. All right. So, yes, but one thing that you may know that you need to know about failing is that you do not and you should not allow an experience, an event, to define your entire identity. All right. Let's take, for instance, you're learning how to ride a bicycle and you're riding on a two tired wheel and you're pedaling with your feet and your foot and feet and you fall. And for that, when you pick yourself up and you dust yourself up, the mindset of growth should not be, oh, I should just quit this in its entirety. No, a growth mindset means that I should go again and review what has happened and know that that's just the one event in my life. And it doesn't determine or it doesn't mean that I am a failure in the entirety of life. Failure is just one event out of the multiple awesomeness that will come out of you. So when we fail, let's fail forward. Let's fail thinking about the future, thinking about the things to improve on in the future the next time you try again. So, pretending that you don't feel pain, pretending that you did not feel the pain that comes from a loss, whether an investment, whether the loss of a dear one, is, coming to accept shame. All right, it's not shame to accept the pain that comes from failing. It's not shame to accept the pain that comes from a loss. It just means that you're first human and you're in touch with your feelings. Name that feeling, do a breathing exercise, sit down in a quiet room and review it. Because when we don't allow ourselves to grieve a loss, when we don't allow ourselves to feel the pain, we will channel that energy somewhere. Feeling pain, feeling loss does not mean that you don't have faith. It just means that you acknowledge your current state, and it means that you're opening your heart to the next phase, for the next best thing that is coming your way. As long as you don't brood on it, as long as you don't make it your identity, as long as you don't let it form your persona of who you are, launch forward and achieve that goal once again. A healthy growth mindset says that this pain hurts, but I can still learn from it. And the pain does not become who I am. I'm not an angry person, all right? And out because of the pain that I experienced, I'm not someone who's on the hunt to break as many hearts just because mine was broken. No, you learn from it and you bounce back from the setback. Growth never skips grief. That's the summary of what I've been saying so far to you. And some lessons are learned with tears, yes, but that does not mean that you failed. So, what is the one thing that you have picked from all the conversation today? And what is the one thing that you're looking to improve on? Why don't you put that in the chat? Let's see it. Let's read it. Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, I agree with that. You're right. Yes. Awesome. That's fantastic. Okay. Thank you all so much for coming in again to our 30 minutes of launching and while learning. I will be here next week to talk about the final two myths about growth. If this has really been, something that really encouraged you and you would like to have other people watch this along with you, why don't you share the link? And if you would like to join us on a live launch and learn 30 minutes of growth with me, why don't you look forward to seeing another notification on your screen next week, all right, at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you'd like to be a part of my community of growth, my community where we learn and heal together, please see the details on the screen. It says join my community on Skool. So you type skool.com/grow with Abisola Olabisi. Skool.com/grow with Abisola Olabisi. Right now, the community is free. So you're going to be getting a lot of free stuff with learning and, of course, growing, and while you work on being the best version of yourself. All right, until next time, enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.